this weekend?
Okay, we are live. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
We're having a meeting before the meeting and having fun. So, anyway, I want to introduce everyone to Leilani. She is our speaker, interviewer, mama in charge tonight. I met her, I guess, a couple of months ago. We met through Clubhouse and through a YouTube group because y'all know I'm putting everything on YouTube now. And she has her channel is Living with Eve, and Eve is your daughter.
Well, actually, her name is Naomi.
Oh, why did I think it was Eve?
And okay. So the idea.
How did that happen? Why did I think she was Eve? I don't know. It must be crazy.
Because it says Living with Eve. That's why.
Okay.
And I initially wanted her name to be Eve on YouTube to just protect her, but there were too many things where I would commonly say Naomi this, Naomi that, Naomi this, and so I just kind of threw my hands up. But I stuck with the Living with Eve just because of the significance behind the name Eve, that it means life. And,
yeah, I love that name. I love that name.
Yeah, and that it just kind of means that she brings so much life to the family, and our family. It is a new path for us, but there's so much life, and the biblical significance as well. So we just kept living with Eve, and
I like it though. She is a sweetie though. I've watched a couple of videos, and that's how I watched a video you were teaching her to read.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I have got to have her come on and talk, because I work with a lot of moms and special needs moms, and there's always questions. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's somebody who's doing preschool that can talk to moms. I'm like, this is awesome. So anyway, let's start with your story, because I mean, on the YouTube channel, I mean, it had me in tears. I was crying.
Sorry.
It was a good cry. It wasn't a bad cry.
I don't know which one, because I got a couple where I get that response from the.
Yeah, I mean, crying's not always a bad thing. I think just emotionally I connected with it, and just start there.
So which one? Was it the birthing story?
It was the birthing story, and just everything y'all went through.
Yeah. Okay. So if anybody doesn't know, I have 4 kids. Well, not 8, 4. There we go. 4. 4 kids, and my youngest was born with Down syndrome, and we didn't know that she had Down syndrome in the beginning, and she had open heart surgery because she had a heart murmur. It was more than a heart murmur. It was an AV canal defect, which basically was just a giant hole, but it was 3-dimensional. So it was, we had to sew it together. The doctors had to repair. It was a really big deal because the hospital stay was over a month. They did kind of messed up a little bit, but the whole purpose of that video was to share that God's hand was in it. She's healthy. She's happy. Even the doctors right now say that she probably will not pass away from anything heart related. She'll probably just grow old, and I don't know. We don't know but it's not going to be the heart. And so, yeah, it was more of a testimony for that one. And then the other one that I know that brought tears to people's eyes was just the struggles that I have as a special needs parent. I don't know. Is that the one that you were referring to?
That's probably what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Just the reality of being a special needs mom. People think they understand what you're going through, and they have a lot of empathy, and we appreciate it a lot. But there's things in this world that only we understand with other moms that are raising children that have disabilities. And it's a lot of patience. It's a lot of the biggest one was the automatic jump, a lot of moms will jump to other people are ignorant, when in reality, it's just get your child out there, expose them to the world so the world can get to know them better. Does that make sense? I don't like using that word ignorance because it has such a negative connotation. More just they don't know. They're not exposed. Just like me, I don't know anything about wrestling. So if I talk to somebody who is really into wrestling, they're going to consider me ignorant, but that's just not my strength. The idea is just getting Naomi out there, having her meet people, having people respond to her, interact with her. So there is more of this awareness, and including them in our society, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I talked about, because there is a tendency with special needs moms that if somebody says something, oh, they look like they look like they understand what I'm saying. And we're like, yeah, because they do understand what you're saying. And we get frustrated and we assume that they're just ignorant, and they get online and people make fun of these people, and that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
So it's about just checking your heart and just living your life and being,
Mm-hmm.
walking the walk and doing your thing.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that's true. Let's talk about preschool, because I know mamas, I know you've had to modify and
Yes.
do things on her level.
Yes. So the biggest thing with Down, and I can speak into Down syndrome. My
Mm-hmm.
nephew does have autism, so now my background, I was a teacher. I taught for over 10 years. I did Title I. I had students with autism,
Mm-hmm.
Asperger's. I never had a kid with Downs though. I even had cerebral palsy. I even had I had some that I don't even remember what they're called, but I did work with those students, and it's always the same kind of thing. They're still walking on the same path, like the same developmental milestones as everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens at a different rate.
Yeah.
And there'll be stops and little detours, but they always come back to that path and they continue.
Mm-hmm.
So with preschool, one of my dreams is I want to see her read. You hear lots of stories of Down syndrome kids not being able to read, and that to me, reading is such an open door to just everything for anybody. And I've started her with recognizing letters, with watching, Leapfrog, but just sitting down with her, even some pre-writing skills. That's a big one, because writing always ties directly into reading. Tracing her letters, but we do have to slow down. We have to do a lot of fine motor stuff, a lot of hands-on activities, tracing out the letters. We have thankfully, we have a scholarship in the state of Florida that pays for, if you homeschool, it pays for a lot of her curriculum. So we're able to get different things. Like one of them, I mean, I have the Leapfrog, like ones that sing songs that I let her work on independently. But I also do a lot of Play-Doh with her. It's building her gross motor or her fine motor skills, and gross motor skills too, while we're rolling things out, forming letters with them. We've also used gel bags where we trace things out. We practice a lot of animal sounds with letters. Like we'll pull out the letter A and we'll say ah, or like a G, we'll say
Mm-hmm.
grrr, like a bear. And especially with kids that have Down syndrome, everything is a game for them. Everything is a game.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can find a way to make the activity a game, they're going to latch on and play longer. But I'm also battling the short attention span as well, because she'll stay with me for about 15 minutes and then she gets distracted. So it's this constant struggle of bringing her in and out, but then I don't want to burn her out as well.
Yeah.
So it's just we're hanging out in this little area, and we're trying all the different things we can possibly get our hands on to see if that works and if that sticks with
Mm-hmm.
her. And so I think anyone who's working with a special needs child becomes a pro at teaching those things, because they've tried it all. And it takes a lot of patience and a lot of willingness, a lot of time. And it's very, there's a lot of frustration, there's a lot of tears. And one of the hardest things is when you see, and I did talk about this in my video, when you see other kids that are the same age as your child
Mm-hmm.
excelling, and you're still stuck in one area. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to compare because you know it's wrong, but like your instinct is to compare. You're like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Why is it not working? I'm, you're doing more than the average parent. And then there's this,
Mhm.
jealousy chimes in, like they have a free ride and like all these little things. But it's okay to be stuck. It's okay to be stuck in that realm and work with them because you're developing relationship skills. You're developing trust. You're learning a lot. They're learning a lot. They're learning more than you can actually see. And in the end, they always say that if you're a parent of a special needs child, it's a blessing. And I think it's a blessing, well, because of them, because they're so wonderful, but it's a blessing because your character changes. Um, you become a lot more patient, a lot more empathetic. And just even the siblings right now, they're learning how to watch her. They're learning how to teach her. They're learning how to just relate to people more and have patience with people, even just difficult people in this. There are a lot of difficult people in this world, but it's definitely it's definitely a road with a lot of stuff that you have to go through that
Mhm.
it's challenging, but it's rewarding.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
We had a question. What are some curriculums to look for? Are you using any curriculums with her yet? Or are you just
So well, there's one that I'm going to buy. So I can't speak from experience yet, but everything about it so far looks interesting. It's Rachel. I know her name. She has a YouTube channel. It's Rachel Seven and All is her YouTube channel, and she just wrote a preschool curriculum.
really?
Yes, and it's $5. So if it doesn't work, it's not like you wasted too much. But there's no actual
Mhm.
writing involved. It's a lot of just storytelling and just I don't know. It was recommended to me, and I'm gonna try it out. She's a
I'll have to look
Spanish
at that one.
YouTube. Yeah, it's
Oh,
I'm hearing
neat.
good things. So, but other than that, preschool's hard because if you just jump into preschool curriculum, you're going to get a lot of just the writing stuff. When right now it's here's the gel bag trace, here's some
Hmm.
pipe cleaners. Let's build some letters out of it. We got some wiki sticks, a little bit advanced for the wiki sticks, but we're working on that. What's the other one? Play-Doh. Play-Doh's always just building those letters, practicing the letter sounds. Leapfrog. I have another friend that has a child with Down syndrome, and they said their saving grace was watching that Leapfrog letter factory from like the 90s, I think, or
Hmm.
early 2000s,
Yeah.
over and over and over again. And that was a good foundation.
There are
I
two that
know
there are two that I've seen on YouTube. One is called, I think it's Alpha Blocks. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Alpha. Is
Um,
it Alpha
I,
Bots or Alpha
no,
Blocks?
Alpha Blocks. I think. I
Okay.
have to look it up. Um, Lacey loves it, and then it's Letterland, or that may be on Netflix, but they're
That's like a
very
TV
similar.
show.
I have a feeling they're by the same people, but I'll have to
Okay.
find those and post those. But that's it's like Leapfrog, but it's
Oh,
a little
okay.
bit different. And she watches them, and like this week she was with the math. She was like counting to 100 watching the show. So it's like I'll have to post
That's
those for
cool.
y'all. But
Alpha blocks. I'm looking them up to see if they look familiar. The alpha blocks look cute because they're like little blocks. They
little
always
little like
run. Yeah, they're
little
like little
letters.
blocks with letters. Do you remember that television show a long time ago with the farm animals and they were actual letters?
I think is that Word World?
Yes.
Yes,
There,
Word.
I love that. There's also a curriculum out there that was written. I can't remember what it was. I have to get back to you on that one. But it was written like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have like a flip book and they would go through and read all the words, but
Oh,
they were
neat.
shaped like World World. So
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So, what are you going to do with math? Have y'all started math yet?
we're counting and tracing. We do a lot of counting, like at the play, like little things, like at the playground. We'll say 1, 2, 3, go. We've got one of those Poppy books. We do a lot of book stuff with her, where
Mm-hmm.
you pop it and you say the number. You know what it's
Uh-huh.
polka dots.
Yeah, we've got one like that.
Yeah. And her sister, which takes a huge weight off of me, her sister will sit with her, I mean, a lot, probably for hours over the past like couple months, and just do that book and just count with her. And then I'll pick up with Naomi. She'll go, eh, and you can hear her trying to form the words. So
Mm-hmm.
she's getting it. It's harder with her because she's not nonverbal, but her language is very not there yet. She maybe can say 50 words. So when she's counting, you can hear it's coming, but it's not there yet.
Leilani, how old is Naomi?
She's 4.
4. Okay.
Yeah. And so developmentally, she's around a 2.5-year-old, with the exception of her social skills. Her social skills are right at 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. What are the ages of your children and how do you manage homeschooling so that, because that's a lot going on. You've got 3 other children that are being homeschooled and then you have a special needs child. So how do you manage all of that? What are some tips for managing all of that?
Prayer. but on it, obviously that's first, and wisdom. But it's kind of like I've had to redo our entire homeschool like structure since she's come into the picture, since she's crawled out of she can walk, since she learned how to walk, basically.
Yeah.
She gets into everything. Because I don't know, I didn't mention this. They don't like me talking about this, but my other kids have ADHD. One of them is ADHD, OCD, some anxiety disorder, and I can't remember what the other one was. Oh, dyspraxia.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of, frustration when they have to be interrupted, but then they're wanting to interrupt things to go check on her. So what we have to do is so it's my 2 older boys, so ages. Okay, 5th grade. So he's 11. What are they? 11, 9, 7, 4. The 11-year-old is the one that has all the stuff going on with it. He's the one with anxiety disorder. Sorry. And then the 9-year-old is really bright. And because I want to pay attention to their individual personalities, I have taken those 2 and I have them on the same exact type of curriculum. So we're doing teaching textbooks.
Mm-hmm.
So they're on, I like teaching textbooks. I know there's a lot of, do you? Okay. I like teaching textbooks. Their new one is really good, actually. They both do it on their own, so I don't have to worry about math. However, I've also enrolled them at the co-op into a math game class. So they're also building skills there. And then, of course, the 3rd grader does drills on his own. Then I do their history. I do unit study histories.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll focus on, we'll focus so heavily on history, but we do it all together. And Naomi comes in and out, as the day progresses. My 11-year-old, though, if, for example, today, well, actually, let me go back to what I was explaining with history. So I do history, but if I do history, I'm not doing science.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll alternate. So I'll do history, and then when I get to a stopping point, I'll switch over to science. So we just got to the stopping point, and now I'm focused on science. So then today, for example, Naomi had to use the bathroom. So my son, I was in the middle of reading. He took over the reading and finished reading it out for the other 2 to listen. So there's a lot of ownership on their part, them taking charge of something, because they know that I have to deal with Naomi. Sometimes also, if I'm working with the boys, I will have my 7-year-old girl who's first grade, she'll play with Naomi, and they'll do stuff together. She'll read books. She just gets into all her stuff. But the same thing is true when I'm working with Hannah. The boys are working with Naomi and playing with Naomi. So we just, and then of course they have their independent work. So we just kind of play it by ear. It does take a lot of patience because I do get interrupted quite frequently, and it doesn't help that they get interrupted. And sometimes it gets a little crazy messy, and it'll be 10 o'clock when we've gotten like one thing done. So I have to be flexible.
But sometimes I think that's having multiples. I mean, probably on a whole nother level, but I mean, I had 4 altogether. And when they were little, it's like I was constantly moving like this. I bet you were going like this all day long, like you're going in a circle from one kid to another. And it's just a busy thing.
Yeah.
Well, and I also think it's great that it's teaching your older children patience. It's teaching them how to give to one another, like of their knowledge gifts of reading to one another. And so you've got patience, you've got them learning how to teach others, and a lot of independent work. I mean, there's a lot of real positives.
I had a question here. I have custody of 4 of my grandchildren, 2 of which have developmental delays and are on the autism spectrum. The youngest is 6 and was nonverbal when they came to me 2 years ago. He is in therapy 5 days a week, physical therapy 2 days a week, speech therapy 2 days a week, and feeding clinic 1 day. Charlie has trouble for more than a few minutes. I get focusing for more than a few minutes at a time. It's frustrating at times. I know he is a very smart little boy, but I want to find ways to help him focus more than a few minutes. Do you have any suggestions?
So I'm guessing that similar to ADHD.
He autism, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know who this is. If you hear me, correct me if I'm wrong. I think he's on the spectrum, but he's having trouble focusing for more than a few minutes.
So see, now I want to ask more questions to find out more things about him. Because is it just with certain subjects, or is it with all the subjects? And then,
I'm waiting to see if she'll answer.
Okay.
I'm hoping she'll answer.
And then the other thought that comes to mind, does music help? Does no music help? Like, it's almost like you need to try different things. Like playing music in the background, is that going to help him focus?
Yes, he's on the spectrum, and it's all subjects.
It's all subjects. I'm trying to think what my sister-in-law did with her nephew or with her son. I know that we've done, have you ever, the Vibrating Pillow is something that we've used, where that actually, my sister-in-law gave me that advice with my son with ADHD, is it just vibrates, and they sit on the pillow and they just can kind of move around, and it moves for them, and they can continue writing. The bouncy ball, doing schoolwork on a bouncing ball, can be dangerous though. So you have to monitor that one. We also got a therapy swing. So my son, who has ADHD, will literally sit in the therapy swing on his stomach and write on the floor. He'll also switch positions constantly, but he keeps himself doing his work. He's like a little gymnast in that thing. We've also gotten one of those sock bodysuits where they can stretch whenever. There's also those foot bands that you could put at the bottom of a chair that they can use to kick their feet. Have you seen those? If not, you can take a t-shirt and do it with a shirt too. That's a good one. Any type of like fidget toy that's not, that doesn't make noise, but then that can be a whole nother distraction. But they usually find those anyway, so you don't have to do much work there.
She said developmentally he's about 2.5. They use a yoga ball chair, and she tries to limit it to 15 minutes to keep him engaged and then give him a break.
That sounds about right. Yeah. Because if he's developmentally a 2-year-old, I mean, I would say, yeah, 15 minutes and then break. But he's still having troubles with those 15 minutes. I feel like I would have to like meet him to.
Yeah, it got glitchy for a minute. 15 minutes may be a really good time frame. Because I know when I was teaching small children, they said, you aim for like 1 minute per year, and that's for, 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And so I would do centers that were really quick. And if they're interested, they'll go longer. But if they're not, I mean, even 10 minutes.
And I think too, a lot of Montessori type things where it's not just a worksheet and writing it out. There's a really, Right Start Math, right?
Yes.
I'm using that with my daughter. But if he's that's not good for a 2-year-old. Or not a 2, I'm sorry, someone who's developmentally at the age of 2.
I loved your idea of the gel, like I guess I think of a Ziploc baggie with gel bags in it and you trace with your fingers and things like that. I loved that.
And pipe cleaners, building letters, because that all ties in. Now I'm assuming he's not reading.
Okay.
So building with the pipe cleaners, because when you're building, you're creating in your brain the connection to the letters and the shape and then the sounds, and practicing with the sounds. The wiki sticks. There's another one. Oh my gosh. They're more fine motor. It depends how good his fine motor is. But you snap them. I can't remember the name of them. They're good for preschoolers, but you can build stuff with them, but you can build letters with them and create words with them. And it's more like construction. But also, from what I understand from autism and working with them, and then my nephew, they always seem to have something that they gravitate towards. Like, for example, my nephew, his thing is art. A couple of my students in my class, like one of them was drama. Like he had Asperger's and he could get up on stage and you would never know. So finding what their passion is and then really honing in on that, I think will also help tremendously.
She said he's not reading, but he knows all his letters, weak muscles in holding pencil and writing. So,
see, and that's where the weak muscle is. The Play-Doh really helps, and then the gel bags.
Fine motor skills would be very good.
Yeah, just I would say constantly getting that Play-Doh, constantly forming those letters. You can even not just Play-Doh. You can do the foam. You could do the kinetic sand. Switch it up a little bit. But there's so much with Play-Doh. Because it's not just the rolling. I mean, you can stamp, and like some of those, those kits that you buy for kids.
Got kits that have letters. You can stamp letters.
But nobody really knows how to use that stuff. Like, I never knew how much you could actually do with Play-Doh until actually my daughter's occupational therapist started showing me like that pushing for the sensory processing, and then the squeezing for the gross motor skills. And she would have her weave between her fingers. That drove her crazy. So getting just a big box of Play-Doh, I think, as long as they don't stick it in their mouth.
And you could make edible.
You could, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Or you can make non-edible Play-Doh that tastes nasty and they don't want to put in their mouth. Like the salt kind.
She used to make, that reminded me, she used to make Play-Doh, but she would put essential oils in it that would calm him down, or focus oils in it.
Yeah,
that would help him focus.
I've seen those. That's nice. They smell good.
Yeah, they do. But she swore up and down it worked with her son.
I remember that. I am the worst mama that does not like having Play-Doh because Play-Doh dries in carpet.
I don't think you're alone in that, Devin. In fact, I saw a post on that one time about asking moms how many moms allow Play-Doh in their house. And there were an awful lot of moms that said, no, no Play-Doh, but how good Play-Doh is
It's for them,
for kids, you know,
and
special
they
needs or
need it.
not. Play-Doh's really good for kids.
Yeah. It
So
makes
you
me
gotta get
think, well, maybe
tile.
I need to go buy some.
You got to get tile.
Yeah, I do have tile, but still, it's left over from when I had 4 little ones. Okay, it's one of my triggers. Actually do have Play-Doh, people. I have Play-Doh. I just, it causes things. Okay, they said they have Play-Doh, kinetic sand, and we'll need to use more of it. Yes, and I will look for you some articles that give some ideas for Play-Doh. If I don't post tonight, remind me. I'll look for some stuff. I saw a video not long ago. Somebody was doing a whole bunch of stuff with fine motor skills, and I cannot find it. I think it was in one of our YouTube groups.
It's probably me.
Somebody, and I'm like, somebody.
I know I have one coming out.
Well, when you get the link, post it below this so mamas can find it, because I kept thinking I'd seen it or heard it, and I was like, where did I see that? And you can find lots on YouTube. I mean, there's lots of great stuff that you can get ideas of what to do with it for fine motor skills. So,
Yeah, you just got a great compliment about how they love your videos on potty training, that they are working on that.
I had such sympathy. I had such sympathy.
Oh my gosh. This is how I feel right now. Just the potty training thing.
I had one who was past 4. I've had 2 that were past 4 before they ever potty trained. I think after the first one, I just, I'm like, whenever they start, I'm like, I just can't deal with this. See, I'm that mom. I am that mom. But I'm like, well, whatever when they're ready, I can't force this. Because I had a sister-in-law that potty trained hers at 18 months. Okay, and here I am with the child who's 4 that has no interest in going to the toilet. So
I would have to see that to believe that.
Okay, mamas, don't get offended. But I think if your child is potty trained at 18, you're trained, not they're not trained. You're trained. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, thank you, by the way, to whomever said that.
Yeah.
Because those were hard. I'm still training.
It's okay.
Yeah, I've had a lot of moms with kids, specifically Downs, age 10, they're still in diapers, and they say 50% of it is their stubbornness.
It could be.
I would believe that. I had two of my 3. I worked to have them get potty trained, and it was a very frustrating experience. And then one day, happened the same way with both of them. They said, I don't need diapers anymore, and they never wore a diaper again. One of mine never ever had an accident. And then, the other one, rare occasion had an accident. But it was like, wait, what was all this training about? When all of a sudden, one day you decide you want to you're done. You're done wearing diapers and you're potty trained. It's like, how's that happen? So I agree. Sometimes it could be that stubbornness of, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I could just pee in my diaper, whatever.
What do I need to do this for? I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
But
yeah, that would be frustrating.
She's now starting to communicate to me that she needs to go, and it's baby steps.
That's a step forward.
Yeah, somebody actually sent me, a viewer actually sent me a link to a lady who did a whole series on videos. She has a website talking about how to potty train kids with disabilities and special needs. And her philosophy is like this gentle. She broke it down. I need to probably share it.
Yeah, share it, because I think even mamas, this is a frustrating thing for every mother.
Yeah.
I'm like, it is not an easy thing to do.
Well, they do the 3-day potty train. You take one day and break it down into a couple months. Like, it was just, I don't know. It was amazing what this lady was. And then the first step
That's
is just
amazing.
taking them, letting them recognize that there's a toilet, and knowing you had to like schedule your day so that they know a toilet is where you pee, and you take them to the toilet to pee. Like, they weren't doing it on their own. And you sit in that little area for a while, like for a couple days until they're ready for the next step. And they'll tell you, oh my God. Because our occupational therapist actually had us taking her to the bathroom every 30 minutes. And after like 3 days, I was not a pretty person.
No.
I'll just be honest, there was yelling. So that didn't last long. We quit that. I put her back in diapers and went on vacation. I'll just be honest.
Well, yeah, but that, I mean, you know, well, what I always said with my son, he just wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
He had to decide that he was ready.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah, they don't want to be interrupted from playtime, and it's more convenient to just use that diaper. And diapers today keep them so dry that
And it's
they're
one
not
thing
really
they can
uncomfortable.
control. It's one thing they can control. Just think how many things a child cannot do for themselves and they cannot control. So, I mean, I think I get it. In my old age, I get it that I didn't get when they were young. I'm like, that's what I tell my big kids about my 5-year-old. I'm like, just think of how many things she can't actually do. She can't go cook her food. She can't, you know, get things out of the cabinet. She can't do this. She can't do that. Here's no all day long. So yeah, that's one of the few things that they can control.
And that's why she's stubborn, because she wants to do those things.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is a God-given gift, because she needs to be stubborn to push through the low tone. The low tone, that in and of itself.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I was going to say something else and I forgot. Totally forgot. I think I was going to say something about the diapers. We've been using the cloth diapers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like those.
Yeah, because they are dry.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Anybody questions? I know y'all listening. They're here. I see them. Y'all can talk.
I can't see them, though. I'm like, hi.
I know. Well, I don't see how anybody couldn't be a fan. It's pretty cool. I like your channel. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I will say, I think, the one thing about having a channel is I feel accountable to my community.
Mm-hmm.
And it pushes me to be a better mom.
Yeah.
And that's why I like doing it. Because I think if I just, which I'm not going to quit, I have no desire right now. Like, I enjoy it so much. If I just quit, I would go back into so many old habits. And, but it really does, it help. And now that my channel is just, it's growing and I'm getting consistent feedback from my audience, it's really cool to see what people have to say and the advice that people give, that I'm like, I never thought of that before. And I'm finding that I'm learning more from my viewers.
That's awesome.
That I'm learning from my books and my research, and even, like, honestly, like, occupational therapists. I had a viewer once say to me, like, why don't you, or no, she pointed out to me that I still give Naomi a pacifier. And she was like, you got to get that thing out of her mouth. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so right. I didn't even think about that. So I took it to the speech therapist, and I'm like, is this really messing up her speech? And she's like, yeah, you're done tonight. We're done. I'm like, okay. But I wouldn't have thought about that unless somebody had told me or mentioned it to me. So they do say YouTube keeps you humble, and it's true. Mm-hmm. But I like that. So
yeah,
I'm not a weird person.
I thought of a question.
Okay.
In your homeschooling, this is for all the moms out there who are just getting diagnosed. How important is your occupational therapist, speech therapist? Do y'all really work together, like, on what to work on at home for homeschooling?
Yeah, I do.
Can
My
you use
occupational therapist is amazing. I can't even, and I get along with her. That's the thing. We're on like the
Mm-hmm.
same level. And when the teletherapy thing hit, I was having to sit there and do all the work with Naomi. And she gives me homework and she sends me links and she's like, you need to buy this right now. And so I love, but you have to find a good one. That's the key. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like too, the occupational therapist is kind of like her other teacher because we're working on the fine motor skills and she's doing
Mm-hmm.
writing with her. And I love my OT. The physical therapist I love too. Um, I have my husband do physical therapy on teletherapy when we went through that because Naomi's strong. And I don't know, it's hard to see like on camera, but I'm really tiny. So she hasn't given me a black eye yet, but I can't do physical therapy with her. She's strong. She has bumped my head into the wall and I had a big thing, not which you couldn't see. But anyway, her physical therapist is amazing. She has an aqua therapist that works with. They do give me homework though. They'll be like, make sure you're doing a lot of squatting. That's the big thing. Like put things purposely on the floor or on the table that
Mm-hmm.
she can get on her toes and reach and squat. So they'll give me some homework. The speech therapist is amazing. I wish I had more of my speech therapist. Um, yeah, I just wish I had more of her. That's the only thing that I can really say about her because there's a lot of like we're doing with animals and farm and
Mm-hmm.
play. She's the ones that taught me how to play with Naomi. So I guess it depends on the kid and the situation, but I consider her occupational therapy, physical therapy, the speech therapy, and aqua therapy. I consider all of that schooling.
Yeah, and that's one thing I want to point out, mamas. That school, and if you can get a good working relationship with them, I think it really goes a lot further.
Yeah, and oh, another thing too is so I didn't mention this earlier. Like I do evaluations for the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So when those new homeschool moms get nervous and they have to do their yearly evaluation, it's me
Mm-hmm.
that walks in the door and looks at the portfolio and writes out the
Yeah.
paperwork. And if I can say anything across the board, like especially with special needs, like as long as you're working with them, all of that is school. All of that. Like
Mm-hmm.
just I know each state has different requirements,
Yeah.
but I think when it comes to special needs, there's as long as they're improving.
Yeah. You want progression.
Yeah.
You want to see that there's some kind of progress, and it doesn't have to be on their grade level. Because I was talking to a mom today. He's not on grade level. I said you need progression. As long as you're moving forward, you can't go back in time to where he was in the public school and something wasn't taught right. You start where he is, move forward, and that's what you want to see with your special needs preschooler. You want progression.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you don't see progression, then you say, hey, shoot me a note, and I'll say I'll find somebody to help you evaluate what's going on and see. And you might not be seeing everything correctly because as moms we worry. But then again, there might be a problem, and then somebody else with another set of eyes can say, hey, yeah, but try this. So
Yeah, and guide them. Like I'll do testing with them. So
mm-hmm.
I'm not qualified to diagnose any
Yeah.
disabilities. But I don't know, are you familiar with the Peabody?
A little bit,
A
yeah.
little bit. So I own that test and I love that test because I've sat down with parents. My favorite to hands down are parents of special needs students. So I'll do the Peabody and they're like, I'm really struggling with my child learning reading, for example. And I can
Mm-hmm.
sit there and administer the test and I can say, you know what, have you ever looked into this? And it's cool because after talking to the parent, I mean, they kind of already knew, but we can kind of see what their struggle is and we
Yeah.
can kind of help guide them to the
Mm-hmm.
next step. And it's really cool to see that with the
That is
parents
really.
when they realize they're not going crazy because
Mm-hmm.
as a mom with a special needs child, you're like, what am I doing wrong? And it's so
Yeah.
frustrating because you don't know where to go next. And to have that, that's why I like administering that test, because you can see those red flags. But I always say, like, I can't diagnose anything, but
Yeah, that's nice.
yeah, it is. It's
okay, mamas. Do y'all have anything else? Because we want to value Leilani's time, and we'll wrap it up if there's not.
Got another great compliment that somebody loves your YouTube channel.
I know.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
That's my heart and soul.
Leilani, this has been so informative, and I'm sure it's giving a lot of moms peace of mind. Thank you so much.
I hope so.
Yeah, I know. I
Pray for all
very
my
much
mamas.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, mamas, she is in the group. If you have questions, you can tag her, or if you suddenly go, I don't know if this is the right mama, I'll tag her, and we can get your questions answered. And if you're in Florida, she evaluates.
I book up fast. Like, I'm
She
booked
books
up
up
through June right
fast,
now.
but I mean, if you're in Florida, I know we have a lot of Florida mamas in my group. But we can get you in touch with her. And other than that, thank you for coming tonight.
No problem. Thank you for
Yes,
having me.
thank
This was fun.
you. Thank you so much.
And if you have not visited her channel, visit her channel. You will love it, and she'll give you a lot of encouragement. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.